Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tony, and the channel is Tony Talks Cards, and I am so excited today. We've got an old friend, maybe a new friend to some of you, but an old friend to me that I will be talking to on the channel today. We'll talk about all things the 2025 National in Chicago and talk about his plans, our plans, and just things we're trying to pick up or look out for, or maybe some words of wisdom along the way. It is 3 months away, but it's probably never too early to plan for a big show like that. And this is the second time Brandon and I have talked. First time was more around unopened packs and unopened baseball, football cards. I'm sure we'll talk about that too, but wanted to get his perspective on the Nationals. I know he's going here in a few months, and hope to meet up with him and some other folks from the YouTube community there as well. So without further ado, I will bring on Brandon from Brandon's Baseball Cards. Hey, Brandon.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. I'm glad to have you. This is a number two, a kind of a rewind for us. This is perfect. I'm glad you're able to jump on.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the first interview we did, and it's just good, like I mentioned probably before, just to talk to somebody else about baseball cards and football cards, I guess, and teams. And you and I were chatting, and it's a long way away, but the Nationals coming up. Obviously, we all know that here in about, I think it's late July. It probably spans into early August, technically too. I think
Mm-hmm.
on the calendar. So I think you said you're going, and you've been several times before. I'll be going too, and thought we could just chat about our way too early plans for it, maybe hopes and what we're looking for, or just kind of even like words of wisdom of people who haven't gone before, or things you want to look out for this time. And I'm sure
Sure.
cover that and like 10,000 other topics we could probably talk about with cards too. So let's kick it off, I guess. So tell me about your plans for the National. You're going, right?
Yes, yeah. This will be. I think this is my fifth or sixth, and I'm going with my brother Dylan, one of my younger brothers, and we are flying in. First time ever, we're flying in Tuesday, the day before the show, just because there always seems to be a delay in our flight on Wednesday, which is we always try to get there for the early showing day on Wednesday. And we were just like, you know what? Let's get in a day early, hang out in Chicago a little bit, and then we'll go Wednesday. And then I think we're staying till Friday evening. So about 2.5 days on the show floor is the
Yeah.
plan, which to me, that's right about the amount of time that's appropriate. I think one day is probably too little, and by day 4, I don't know about you. I don't know how many days you've stayed in the past, but I'm dragging by day 4.
Yeah.
Like it's exhausting. It's fun, but it's just so stimulating that I think 3 days is about our sweet spot.
Yeah, if there's something on like a day 4, like you're doing something else besides cards, like meeting up with people, or you go to a game for half day, come back to the show, make dinner plans with people, right? You gotta like break it up probably, so it's not all like wearing out a new pair of Nikes or something for 4 straight days of working. I mean,
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it is a lot. I mean, and it's, and there comes a point where, at least for me, because with unopened, that's my main area, where you start to spin your wheels a little bit because there's only so many dealers that actually have the type of unopened material that I'm looking for.
yeah,
That after a few days, it's okay. This has been fun, but I think I've had enough, that type of thing. But I love it. I look forward to it. We try to go every other year. We skip years just
okay,
because I have young kids, and financially it's better to just alternate years.
yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing like it. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting into when I went. Probably the first time was in Chicago, maybe 13 or 14, so over 10 years ago. And
Mhm.
I mean, just you walk in, maybe this is really strange for me, but just the smell of cardboard, the
Mhm.
smell of like old things, like you're walking into a junk store, antique store, or your grandparents' house, but it's all this old wax, old cardboard, old cards, and like it permeates this massive building. I just love that smell. Maybe other people do too, but it hits you right away when you get in there.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't actually think my wife is to blame for my national trips, because she got me started in 2018. That was my Christmas present. She let me know, "Hey, I've
Whoa,
got you and your brother tickets to the show. I know
nice.
you've always wanted to go." And then we came back, and I was like, "I'm gonna go every year." And she was like, "Oh, no. What have I done?"
Every
But
odd year, every other year. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, at that point I was like, "I wanna go every," but yeah, it's our first national was in Cleveland. I've only been to the Cleveland site once. But
Okay.
I think Rosemont is probably most people's preferred spot, just because it is very convenient and there's a lot of nice hotels nearby.
Yeah.
Um, so I know you've said you've Chicago's been the only one, the only location you've gone to, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Chicago, I mean, I have a friend who lives there right now. I didn't early on when I first started to go back in 13 or 14, but I may stay with him
Mhm.
this year. He lives
Cool.
probably a half hour more away, but if I can stay for free and buy a few dinners, right, for him and help him out, right? It's maybe use his car, have a drop off. He's going to the show too, but his show interests are more around stuff like non-sport or soccer
Hmm.
cards. And they have separate things like late at night, trade nights that aren't quite tied to the main show hours. So we
Hmm.
may see each other, but like not spend the whole time like back and forth, right? Because he has different things that I want to get into, right? So it's just there's so much there, whether it's the show itself from 10 to 5 or the after shows and the more shows and the trade night. So the autographs, there's so much stuff you can do where you can find your own way, over 4 or 5 or 3 days. So
Hmm.
but Chicago, being a Bears fan, I was always like, let's go to Chicago. If I'm going to go to that one, there's probably going to be more Bears cards, Cubs
Hmm.
cards, memorabilia. People who care about that from Chicago just go to the show. It's like their home base. And I like that, seeing that they do have a lot of those options there for Bears guys like myself, Cubs guys like myself. Never been to Cleveland or Atlantic Cities, but I imagine they probably have similar regional interests there too. Maybe more Cleveland stuff in Cleveland than Chicago, right? So it's for me, it's kind of like that's the best one to get to. And then I think is it O'Hare is right nearby
Yes, it
Rosemont.
is. Yeah,
So
it's like
find
one
O'Hare.
stop on the blue line, and you're in Rosemont. It's
Yeah,
really
so
close.
real close to leave and get in. I've stayed pretty close by the convention center the last few times too. So it's real not a lot of driving around besides the time I stayed with my friend, 2 years ago. So it's convenient, it's close by, and I know the area. And actually, it's a lot. It's almost way too much to look at, but it's
Yeah,
overload. But it's good overload too.
yeah, it is a it's and for people that are going for the first time, I know that's people always ask, well, what advice do you have? Should you have a plan and all this stuff? And to me, I think
Yeah, what do you think about that? Yeah,
some of the talk about having a plan, I think it's too much. Just especially if it's your first time, you're going to be overwhelmed. Anticipate being overwhelmed. Enjoy yourself. Hopefully, you pick up some items you're looking for. But the whole like, well, I have to do this each day. Just enjoy the ride. I mean, that's just my view on it. It's like being a kid in a candy store. I mean, it really
yeah.
is. For those of us in this area, that love everything sports cards. I mean, it's Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, you could spend your whole whatever your budget is, you could spend your whole budget probably at the first table you find,
Oh
if you
yeah.
really wanted to, right? And you're like, "I've got the whole show and other multiple days, I don't have any money to spend," right? So it's you gotta kind of pause sometimes too and just take it all in like you said, and maybe come back around for a second time, find that table again, maybe on the next
Mhm.
day, and, see what deals are out there. Maybe there's no deals, maybe there's deals, and you just walk around for an extra couple hours, you find this one table with, oh my gosh, that's just what I wanted. And they've got a good deal on it. And you wouldn't have known that had you spent, your entire budget, right? The first hour you were there. But it's
Mhm.
tempting. There's a lot of good stuff there for sure.
Well, yeah, and I think, yeah, keeping some perspective as a first time attendee is important because you're right. The impulse there, you get there, the impulse is buy, buy, buy. It's
Yeah.
not going to, at the very worst thing that's going to happen is if you pass on an item, someone else is going to buy it. Big picture in life, that's not the end of the world. And there's probably a ton more at the show that you were looking to get.
Yeah.
So the worst case scenario is you don't get this piece. And I don't mean to poo poo this at all because I'm obsessed with this stuff. I love this stuff. It's cardboard. Like
Yes.
you've lost this piece of cardboard. There are other pieces of cardboard that you can that you probably need, and maybe
Yep.
the price will be better too.
Yep.
Shop around a little bit and don't be afraid to ask. One piece of advice I do try to give people is don't be
Yeah.
afraid to ask what is your best price
Yep.
rather than you throwing out a number. Ask the seller what their best price is because that way it may be cheaper than what you were going to throw out.
Yep.
Just a good way to try to maximize your dollars at the show.
Yeah, and I think being polite with that too, which of course you're implying being polite with that. Don't kind of assume, hey, I'll give you this. Like
Yeah.
you're kind of in control. Like they have the card. they can say no to it. And maybe if it's day one of the show, they're going to wait it out for like 4 more days. They don't need to per se accept that, right? So,
Sure.
but yeah, show some interest, talk to them, smile, like make a little kind of connection, right? And maybe they say no, maybe they say yes, but ultimately, like it's good to kind of practice with that stuff too, I think, because I'm not a
Mhm.
natural like negotiator. I kind of don't like that sometimes, but people are used to it. That's a show. People are used to kind of wheeling and dealing and being offered things, and they do take in trades and things like that. So it's not just about going to a grocery store and buying apples for whatever price per pound they are. It's like that's a fixed price. You can't negotiate apples or lettuce or things like that,
Sure.
right? But you can if you're, maybe have a good reason why. There's a recent sale maybe that was sort of kind of lower.
Mhm.
All you can say is no, and all you can do is practice, and maybe that'll help you do better with other tables too coming up.
Yeah, that and I mean, and don't be afraid, to engage with them. Just ask how the show's going.
That's a
They
good idea
love
too.
just a simple question. How's the show going for you? Even if it's not going well, they'll smile. It's going well, having fun, whatever. It's a good
Yeah.
icebreaker to ask, and you're showing interest in how is it for you as a dealer here? That seems to there's little things you could do to build rapport, I
Yep.
think, that go a long way. And yeah, just don't be a jerk. Like anything. Walk up, be nice, smile. If they say no, if the deal doesn't feel right, move on.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
especially if it's like that first day, the first half of day before lunch, you're like, there's like hundreds of tables like I could find in the back corner that has the same. And for me, I'm a Cubs fan, so there will be
Mhm.
more than one Ernie Banks card in that show, right? There'll be thousands, if not thousands of graded ones for all I know, right? Of the same year, right? The
Sure,
same
sure.
picture. So it's like, don't rush to make, judgment on that one, but maybe if you want something really, really rare, as we pivot to like unopened material and open packs, maybe there is only one or two, and only one or
Mhm.
two dealers may even care or know what that is and have it. So you kind of have to know what you're going after too. And again, maybe you do want to snap it up on Wednesday if it's
Mhm.
that unique of an item that you're looking for example.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I kinda take a different approach, like, we're going Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah,
The majority of my bankroll will probably be gone Wednesday, and that is because of unopened being kind of a different animal.
got it. Yeah, cool. Hmm.
There's just not that many dealers that have a lot of unopened. There's the standbys, the places you have to go to, Baseball Card Exchange,
Yep.
Ripping Vintage Packs, Kurt Christensen's company.
Yep.
There are companies like that that will have nice items available, and you can bet on it every year. It's kind of a museum, just
Yep.
going and looking at their displays. Here's a 71 Tops Football Series 2 box, just stuff where you're just like,
Geez. Yeah.
this is just amazing. So you get the museum component, you get to see all the T206 Wagners and all that stuff. And, all that's free once you get in. But if
Yeah.
there's an item you want, especially if it's unopened, there may be two 1975 or 1976 Tops rack packs at that show. Yeah, I collect mid 70s stuff. That's one of my
Yeah.
main areas. If
Who
one's
knows?
available Wednesday
Yeah.
and the price is fair, that might be something where I just go, you know what? There's there's a big chunk of the bankroll gone, but that's
Yeah.
just because of the much more limited supply of unopened. Once the cards are out of the package, I mean, like you said with Ernie Banks, you can bet on it. How many
Yeah.
Ernie Banks rookie cards are you going to see for sale? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So, but that actually gives you an opportunity too to be very selective, to be strategic.
That's a
Maybe
good
you have
point.
a little bit more negotiation power because
Yep.
there's a lot of dealers that have it. So I think it depends what you're looking for. But yeah, my bankroll. I'm not the best person to talk to about bankroll management because it'll be Wednesday. I'll be walking around watching my brother with my hands in my pockets after a couple
Yeah.
hours. What are you looking at? Oh,
Think vicariously through others, but that's fun too sometimes,
oh yeah, yeah.
picking up and encouraging them and say, "Yeah, good job. That's a great looking pack, a great looking card," and
Well, and
whatever.
there was a show, I forget which year it was. It might have been 2021 national. He was looking at a 53 tops mantle that was raw,
Mm,
and it was a big chunk of his bankroll that he brought.
yeah.
And I could tell he wanted to buy it, but I could also tell he needed to take a lap around the show to
Mm.
for me to like hype him up to buy it because he was like I guess, a little anxious about spending the
Yeah,
money.
that's
And
cool. Yeah.
so, we took a lap, and I was like, "You should do it if you really want it, if you think, whatever." And so he went back and he he's like, can you record me buying this? So I took a little video of him putting the money out to buy it. I was like, you want me to send this to you? um, but yeah, sometimes it never hurts to take a lap if you're,
Yeah.
once the money's gone, you can always try to flip something at the show to get it back if you have buyer's remorse, but you could lose money.
Yeah,
You could be,
that's
taking a
true.
loss.
And that mantle, I mean, 53 mantle, any mantle, again, is especially the early years is going to be really rarer, maybe pricier. But again, even then, I bet you could find
Hmm.
several tens, 20s, 30s, maybe 100 of those probably at that show, right?
Hmm.
Raw graded, different grades, different styles, all those
Yep.
things too. So it kind of makes each one somewhat unique, but still, even those things, you may find a couple or more of them, right? Let
Oh
alone
yeah.
more common commons, but things that aren't yet opened or never been opened in 50 years.
Hmm.
Yeah, with maybe a team showing on top that you collect, even more rare, or a player you collect on top
Hmm.
or on back. It's like, I know I could wait till Saturday. This is not gonna happen. Like, this is the Wednesday afternoon. This has to yeah, I get that. That makes a lot of
Hmm.
sense to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's definitely, and I'm fine walking around too once if my money's been, spent, and I know there are other
yeah,
guys in unopened. I won't name any names because 'cause I'll protect their anonymity, but they'll buy one big item the first day of the show. This is something I've been looking for, and then they just hang out, you
yeah,
know, and there's nothing wrong with that, if
no,
the especially if the goal is to see people in the community. If it's not just the purchase of, you can look at an auction house and buy a lot of the items that you'll see.
yeah,
You can bid and win that, Robert Edward auction, or, Mile High, or some of these other big auction companies.
yeah,
You can get items. It's the experience of the show that makes it unique,
yep.
in my opinion.
And
Uh,
maybe you've got 0 bankroll left, but you see a dealer who has a bunch of cool stuff, strike up a conversation. Maybe you'll see them in 2 years when you go back next year. You'll see them
mhm,
take their card, find them online, and in
yeah,
6 months, you got more money and you find a deal with that person because you talked to them.
yeah,
In Chicago, they remember you and vice versa, and at least you're building some connections in the community of those who may have what you need in the future too. So it's like meeting people, like you said too, and building connections and
mhm.
enjoying it, just enjoying the experience.
Yes, yes, and a lot of the people that we've met, the only time we see some of the people that we're friends with in the Facebook group, Vintage Wax
Yeah,
and Packs, it's at the National. So it's a kind of a family reunion
yeah.
in a sense, because it's great to go and be able to meet you in person. I don't think we've actually met in person yet.
No.
It'll
We've
be
been at the
wonderful.
same show for, like, several years probably, but, like, among a million people, you're never gonna know, right? But we probably
Yeah,
crossed paths at the hot dog line for all I know and had no
sure.
idea, 2 years ago, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and it is kind of cool now, especially now that you're doing a lot more YouTube content. The random people that will walk up to you, "Hey, I like your channel." You'll just get a little like tap on the shoulder. "Hey, I like your channel." You're like,
That's
"Oh, okay."
funny.
Just random people like so in the crowd, sometimes you'll be spotted, which is kind of fun. But
Yeah, I'd imagine, yeah, because 'cause you've had your channel now for how long, Brandon?
oh, I guess 6 years? It's going on
Wow.
7 maybe? Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. That's great. That's cool. Yeah, a lot of people you can meet through that and talking, and then the Facebook groups too are part of. A lot of people you can meet that way virtually as well, who may show up at the show too.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, and the YouTube meetup, every year there's one night in particular where it's at, forget the bar that it was at in the past few years. Sometimes it moves around, the location will
Mm,
change, but it's a great place to go and meet other content creators, and just get a beer, and there's trading going on. I don't have the energy for you brought up trade nights earlier.
yeah.
And I commend anybody who has, I mean, it's a marathon for some of these people. Like, they are going nonstop from 7 in the morning, but before the doors open, they're out in the
Yeah.
lobby trading, and I'm just
Yeah.
kudos to you, because I'm
A lot of
this is
socialization and deals and money, trying to figure out what's best for me and you, and yeah,
Mhm. Well, but I mean, it's just such a it never ceases to amaze me how much energy some people have and how much
mm,
passion there is after hours, the trade nights, before, just and
yeah,
by the end of the show, maybe it's just me, but I'm kinda gassed. I'll talk cards, but
yeah,
more negotiating and thinking through I'm like, "Oh, I just need to
yeah,
have a beer and hang out for a little bit," but
yeah. Get me a seat and a piece of pizza, I guess, to, like, rest my feet, and your hips and ankles from walking that concrete for, like, 8 hours. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'd be in a better mood after that probably, but I'd not immediately, like, 6:01, I'm like, "I need a break to, like, decompress from people and then come back maybe even at that
Sure,
point to talk
sure.
about it. So, well, yeah, no, we talked about definitely trying to find maybe have a list or not having a list. You mentioned
Mhm,
maybe on Wednesday finding something you'd love to pick up, and that may be your only thing you buy, and that's cool.
mhm,
Like if it worked out perfectly for you, like are there types of packs or a type of pack you're looking to get it? And if you found it on
mhm.
Wednesday, whether you say it or not, you don't have to kind of say what it's going to be. But like, do you have like a list of a few things in mind you'd love to pick up if you found them there?
Yeah, yeah, I actually have a couple, non-sport packs that are actually
Hmm.
kind of, they're not really obscure, but some of the, 1966 Topps Batman
Oh,
wax
I've seen those
packs.
on our Facebook group. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really after the cellos, and I think, Kurt Christensen and, Manny and a few others have basically like 80% of the population of the cellos that exist anyway. It's in a they're in hands that are not, this product isn't being moved. The wax packs are out there,
Okay.
and so the repeating bat logo 5 cent pack, that would be a really cool.
Mm,
There's one on eBay right now, but it's something I'd like to buy in person,
yeah. Yeah.
especially if it's GAI graded. A lot of them are GAI, which is a company that no longer is around, and
Mm,
so some of the packs that they graded towards the end they were just grading a lot of bad packs. So you have to look at the serial number. You need to try to look at roller marks when the pack's in the holder. It's just better to
okay.
buy some packs in person.
That makes a big difference. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. And so that would be one. I recently picked up a few months ago. I picked up a 1959 Topps Wacky Plaques pack, which are very very rare, and it's a beautiful. But I'd like to find another one of those. To be
Cool.
honest with you, I think because they're
Yeah.
just so rare, and that reminds me of my grandfather. Uh,
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But then baseball wise, anything mid '70s. Cellos more than racks, mostly because
Mhm.
cellos are just smaller to store. They take up less space,
Yep.
and they're generally, with some exceptions, they're a little bit cheaper than racks. So you're getting the product from that year. You can see the card showing, but financially, it's just a little bit more tenable for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so 74 to 77 cellos, anywhere in that run. That's kind of really my wheelhouse, and
Cool.
all. Yep. So
Does it
stuff like what.
matter the player or team on top or back of those, or just the year you wanna fill out?
Well, I tend to, if it's a card I like, if it's a player I like, speaking, it's in Chicago, Bill Madlock, I like a lot of his stuff. I'd like to find a 70. This is so specific. This goes to show. Odds are I'll come back with maybe one of these things,
Yeah.
but a 77 cello with the Brett Madlock batting leaders on top.
Hmm.
If I spot that, that's gone. I will take that. That's mine.
And if anyone watching this spots that for Brandon, let him know, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Anyone watching, if
Share
you
that with
see
the
one,
community,
if I see one in the display case, I'll just be like, okay, I'll
yeah.
try to get a lower price, but I'll just take it because
Yeah.
there's some items like that I'll just that you want, and
Yeah.
that's going to be the only one you see at the show.
Well, thinking
Um,
about, like, cello packs having been unopened for 50 years, plus
mhm.
at that point, there were, like, 700 cards in the set. So,
Yep.
like, the odds just multiply out to be like, does it even exist? And if it does, you're like, I don't wanna risk that it's gonna be there tomorrow or ever,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
that's a unique thing about that versus even a mantle. It's very, very much more common to find a mantle, right? Even those older
Mhm.
ones than something
Mhm.
like you're talking about. So which makes I think why I think I like an open because it's cool. It's kind of a mystery, a detective, a hunt, a chase. You may
Mhm.
never find it, but it could be in the wild out there. Maybe it's not, but at least you're kind of hunting for it and trying to see what you can find.
Definitely. Yeah, and I do think it's there's a disconnect between people that collect cards out of the package and unopened. And you see it at the National in real time because, like, I'll show some other content creator this pack, and they're like, "Oh, a 76 top cello. Cool. That's neat." They're not like, "Wow," like, people in the
Yeah.
group are like, "Oh, sweet, man. That's fantastic." There's just this disconnect. They're like, "Okay, I have every 76 card out there in a mint 9. I don't see why this is a big deal." It's like, well, it's
Yeah.
because there's way less of this than there are, these cards in mint condition out of the package. But so I think it's always interesting to me to see people's reactions. They don't know what a good pickup is for me. I can always tell they're like,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
is this really good for you? Like, this is
Yeah,
the best find I've had of the day. Oh, well, good. I'm happy for you.
yeah.
Like,
Do you think do they have a sense, those who don't collect and open, do they have a sense of the prices those things can go for? Or do they think they know that, but they just still don't find the same value in that?
good question. Yeah, I think sometimes people are surprised, but
Mhm.
even when they do know, I think they think it's too much. They don't get it,
Okay.
especially if it's
Yeah,
a star pack. If you see, okay, like an 83 tops rack pack, if you see one that has like Sandberg and Boggs both on top and it goes
yeah,
for a couple $1,000. I
yeah,
know the card guys, not the pack guys, they probably look at that and go, "That's absolutely absurd and ridiculous." And maybe
yeah.
they're right.
Maybe
Maybe
so.
maybe we're missing it. uh, you know, but for someone like us, that's an incredible item, and there's
Yeah.
someone willing to pay that. You
The
know,
odds that that came out of the factory that way with those on the top, and those 2
yep.
guys became Hall of Famers and superstars. They weren't in '83 per se, right? It took them
Hmm.
years to get to that point, and now here's one from the factory, never opened, that are all both on the top. What are the mathematical, like, lottery? What's the odds of that actually happening
Yep.
in a 792 card set with 3, 3, solo, what do you call them? The rack, the 3
Three
pieces
different
of rack.
cells. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, all t it's like a pulling a slot machine. What's the odds you're gonna get all cherries or all diamonds, right? It's like,
Hmm.
no, it's not very common. But again, you can buy PSA 10s of those 2 cards for cheaper than probably, or 9s or 8s, shoot, for less than a couple $1,000. So it's like, you want the card, why not just grade it and pay the 9, buy the 9
Hmm.
or 10, right? So that's the disconnect of what we enjoy about the fact it's never been opened, at least for
Yeah.
me. And your
Yes.
favorite star on top never got picked at Target or Kmart, never got taken down, but that's still here 50 years later for you to admire and look at.
Hmm. Yeah, and to me, it's interesting whenever there's a good example of this is when if you have a wax pack and there's on the back you could see the card face out.
Mm,
Someone who's just a card collector looks at that and goes, "Oh, so there's a 81 Donruss golf pack with Jack Nicklaus on the back with a bunch of wax on it. Cool."
mm,
They're looking at it as there's a card in there that's roached. They're not looking at it as a
yeah,
how cool is this that this item is
good
like
point.
this still in the
Yeah,
original packaging. So to me, I think some of the people that are concerned about grading cards, they
yeah,
tend to. That's why I think they're a little skeptical. Not just because, well, the cards inside may not be in that great a shape, but also I maybe what if I do if I rip this. Their first thought is if I rip this, what's the recuperated value rather than
yeah,
how rare is this item in its current state.
yeah.
So yeah, there's a disconnect there, but I think I've just kind of gotten used to it. I expect 5 or 6 people to be excited for me when I pick up something, and that's
Yeah.
about all you can hope
Well,
for.
we'll find each other at the show, and I'll be your number 7 excited person when you show the wacky plaque or the Batman pack or
There you
some
go.
other pack you're gonna pick up on Wednesday. We'll talk about it.
Sounds great. Yeah, everyone needs a hype man. Everybody
Yeah,
needs a dude.
yeah.
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. Walk around the show for an hour, hype someone up, grab a hot dog, get some spoon in your stomach. If you're not feeling faint or weak, you're strong, you're ready to go and negotiate and make that big purchase. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
that's fun. Yeah. And with cellos, it's like the middle cards may be okay, but the way they wrap those cellos, it could like bend the corners, right? Kind of like
Mhm.
folds them down. So it's not going to be a perfect card. Maybe rack packs have more options because there's no gum in them, right? Too. Maybe the
Mhm.
middle cards are kind of okay, but wax packs, you got gum, you've got wax, you've got stuff may
Mhm.
have seeped through if it wasn't stored correctly in the
Yeah.
box. Who knows what could have happened, right? So you're not trying to find tens if you're opening up an 80 tops baseball pack, which I'm not trying to do that anyway, but you may
Mhm.
not get those cards. They may be miscut, uncut,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
Corners bad. So
Yeah, no, rack packs are definitely if you're gonna be and I don't this is not an endorsement similar to your message of ripping vintage
yeah,
and open material, but, if you're gonna rack packs are the way to go. You're not dealing with the gum, that generally the cards are at least the corners for the most part. There may be some, what is it called? Where there's the,
oh
loader
the
loader marks. There may be loader marks or things like
yeah,
that you don't anticipate, but the cards will be in the best condition. You're not dealing with wax, you're not dealing with gum.
yeah,
But yeah, cellos, I mean, if you 76 tops, 77, they're tightly wrapped. Those
yeah,
corners are they're going to be, not mint by any stretch of the imagination. It makes
Yeah.
zero sense to rip them, and I see some of the companies that rip these types of items and they advertise, oh, Jim Mint Eckersley rookie goes for this much, and they're ripping a cello pack.
Yeah.
I got news for you. Even if you get an Eckersley in there, congratulations. You have an X5 Dennis Eckersley rookie card that you've pulled from a
Yeah.
from a beautiful museum piece that you've destroyed. Um, so I think you have to be very careful. And to me, just leave well enough alone.
Yeah.
And if it's a cello, especially, it makes no sense.
Yeah, keep it in the state it's in, because if
Yeah.
you don't like it after 6 months, you made a bit there's someone else who may wanna buy that from you in that unopened state.
Yep.
They don't wanna buy the cards inside of it once they're opened.
Yeah.
And also, you won't get any sort of monetary recoupment besides the fun of opening a pack on camera maybe, but then you got some miscut cards, you've got gum, you've got wax, you've got bended corners, you've got all types of interesting stuff you could find in there 50
Oh
years
yeah.
later.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. To me, it's you can always, yeah. If you really want to open something, it seems like there's a lot more wax out there than there are cellos for a lot of these years in the mid 70s.
Hmm.
A lot more 74 tops wax packs than cello packs. Cello packs are unicorns.
Hmm.
75 tops may be an exception. There's a lot of 75 out there. And I'm curious to see how much 75 is in the Fritsch warehouse because, they're not releasing how much stuff they have.
Yeah.
There's some stuff in the 70s that's still surprisingly, it's my 75 shirt, by the way. That's a cool
Yeah, I was
place.
gonna ask you about that, what the bottom half said there. Yeah, what that
Oh
was.
yeah, yeah. It's a 75 tops wax pack logo. It just says baseball. But
Nice.
I'm gonna get a few more before the national. Maybe try to get a 77. You do like a 70s run for each day. How do you know you're a nerd? But
Yeah.
yeah, no, and there'll be rippers there. There's a breakers pavilion. Where you can see a lot. That's obviously much more modern product that's being ripped, but there's a lot of people there. It does tend to draw this kind of gambler mentality in
Mm,
some areas of the show.
yeah.
You'll see that play out in real time, and you can watch breaks happen. Lots of giveaways, and I will say this show last time I didn't go in 2024, but in 2023,
Yep.
it did have a bit more of a corporate feel, which I had mixed feelings about. I understand it,
Yeah.
but I also that doesn't mean we have to necessarily like it. But it
Yeah.
did seem, I don't know if you had that impression or
Yeah, when I went 2 years ago, I'd only known Rosemont, right? So I went there and I was like, "Wait a second, there's this whole other room. What is over here?" It was like, I know that
Mhm,
there was 100, maybe more tables over whatever this thing is, right this side over here. And I'm like,
mhm.
"What is all this?" There are people over there with, like, nice unopened, some vintage, but also a lot of big breaker, big corporate, like, lights and bells and whistles going on. So, I mean, that was just extra space they added for that, plus other people who probably wanted to get in line and couldn't make the last show, and now they have room for them for a table, right? So, it was it didn't I just stayed away from it because, again, it's kinda not what I do, but it
Sure,
gave
sure.
me more chance to put miles on my shoes, I guess, and walk around and see things and get really tired at the end of the day. But again, there was so much interest. It's great that they're opening it up because there's people who want to show, want to attend, want to set up, and think they can make it worth their while to be there because there's all these buyers of various things. So it's just knowing there's a lot to see. Like, even in, like, day 1, say it opens 10 to 5 6, whatever it is, you go there right at the start, 10:01. Odds are you probably can't see every table. Even if you stop for like 20 seconds, you probably couldn't see it all. You're shouldering to people, elbowing people, trying to get out of the way slowly. You got to use the bathroom at some point and eat probably at some point too, right? Get some water. So you just got to take it slow, like walk around. I mean, you'll find your tables you like. You'll definitely skip past, for me, I'll skip past all the big, shiny whiz bangs of things and the loud breakers. I will just walk right past and go to like a cardboard smelling vintage table, right? Or unopened packs or somewhere else like that. And I'll make my way through. But just knowing there's every type of collector there and you don't have to like everything, just go and find what you want to like and talk to people, like you said, make some friends and ask how their day is. Yeah, ask how it's going. That's a good recommendation too.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's okay too to you can just sit and talk to people. Like if you're
Mhm.
tired and you need a break and your eyes need a break, because
Yeah.
there'll come a point where, at least for me, there comes a point where I'm not seeing things clearly anymore because it's such a sensory overload that
Yeah.
it's very easy to just, your brain kind of shuts off and you need to take a breather to go back with a fresh perspective. I'll just sit with you'll see me sitting on the floor eating a pretzel with my brother Dylan for an hour just to have a reset moment.
Yep.
It's okay to use showtime. You don't have to go the entire time. I understand the impulse because
Yeah.
as soon as I sit down, I'm like, there's deals to be had. There's deals. I could be out there right now. There's that.
Yeah.
But it's for the sake of actually seeing what for allowing your brain to process what's happening. You do need to take a break because,
Yeah.
especially if you've never been before, there's so many tables, and even skipping tables. I'm the same as you. The modern stuff, I do not care about whatever shiny basketball cards you have for sale. I'm sure other people do, and that's cool, great. Whatever gets
Yeah.
kids involved in the hobbies, good for me, good for the hobby, good for fine by me. But we don't, I don't need to see your stuff. So you could be strategic, and there's probably 6 tables where literally I'll just go hang out at Kurt's table for an hour. I'll just stand there and just look at his stuff, just because I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I know you have stuff I like. Maybe something else will,
Yeah.
And sometimes during the show, dealers will pick stuff up and so you can go back. It makes sense to go back to dealers, not just if there's an item you were interested in before, but they may
Mm.
have picked something up very recently at the show that is they're
Yeah.
looking to move. And so it makes sense if there's a dealer you like, go back. You
Yeah.
don't have to go back 8 times, but go back at least a few times.
That's a good segue. I didn't think about that because again, you may go to Kurt's table, right, and say, "Oh,
Mhm,
nothing for me there," or
mhm,
yeah, no, it's good to look at, right? Kind of observe and like, wow, this is wonderful stuff. But maybe some guy finds him Thursday,
mhm,
he sells him a bunch of Batman packs that you need on Friday or on Thursday, right?
mhm.
And whether Kurt's going to spend time texting you or just you want to come by a couple times and see what's new, right?
Yeah.
You may have new inventory by Friday and Saturday
Yep.
that is fresh because someone came in off the street Saturday morning from Chicago, unload some great packs, and they're there Saturday, but they weren't there Thursday. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, that's a good thing to do is know who you want to maybe take notes of where people are at first, right? Are you like upstairs, downstairs, by the bathroom, by the pretzels? Like what number is your table? And yeah, go back a couple times. Yeah, that's a
Yep.
good point. Mhm.
And try to navigate. You can write down their table number and stuff. That's helpful, but that can also be confusing given the show has expanded in this convention center. It's bigger than ever before. You
Yeah.
could still hunt for a while and not find it, even if you know the number. So maybe have a landmark. Okay, this booth
Yep.
is right next to this sign. Take a
Yep.
picture of it.
I've taken
Right
pictures.
next to this sign. This is
Yep.
the baseball card exchange booth. Right next to this thing. Okay,
Yeah.
done. Just because there are times where you'll lose track of an item that you were very interested in,
Yeah.
even with the table number, and then you get distracted because you're looking for something else now. Like
Yep.
it's easy for your attention to get diverted.
Yep,
Uh,
I did it last year too, where I would take a picture of I think over the aisles, there was like aisle number like 1,000, 1,200, 1,400, like that thing, and then
mhm,
like right eye view of what I'm looking at. And
mhm,
even then it's like, well, this looks like where I was at. But you're like, oh wait, that goes deeper that way. Oh shoot, this is not where I was at before. It's way over this. And you're like walking an hour trying to find that one card that again, you may find them 50 more at the card show too. But if it's a pack,
yeah,
you're like, oh shoot, where was that? And you're like, this was the table. And the guy's like, oh, I sold it a half hour ago. It's like, no. Yeah.
mhm.
You should have bought it the first time. So,
Yes, and use your connections before the show starts too.
okay.
You can ask if there's a dealer "Hey, I'm looking for this. Do you anticipate having one of these for sale?" If it's someone
Okay, yeah,
you've done a deal with, maybe they'll let you send you the money in pay. Yeah, I have this one. Can I send you the money in PayPal before the show? Can you hold it for me?
that's a good suggestion. Yeah. Mhm.
Things like that. That's a good way. That way you're not rushing to a table either to try to beat someone else out for something.
Yeah.
It never hurts. Again, just build relationships with people, be respectful, and that goes a long way. And if you have relationships established already, if you're a known entity, if people have done deals with you,
Yeah.
there's a lot of rapport there that I think is invaluable versus
Yeah.
just walking up to someone you don't know and insulting them with a low offer and being rude. Not that, hopefully,
Yeah.
most people don't do that, but
Yeah. And that's where I think I've been in some of these Facebook groups that you've been a part of probably for a couple of years now. And,
Mhm.
it's not like you should go and look at everything, read the rules, and only be able to buy stuff once you've been on the Facebook site for so many months. But I mean, just sitting back and watching from afar,
Yeah.
you end up seeing like who the big kind of players are, who has some good stuff, who has some maybe shadier stuff, right? Whose prices are really high, whose prices are that's a great price. And if they're talking
Mhm.
about the national or how they think about packs or cards or whatever, you kind of know names and people and buyers, and you kind of like get a sense of what the market's like for some of these
Mhm.
things. And that kind of leads me to maybe one of my last questions here as we come up on about 40 minutes here is that in terms of comparable sales, recent sales, right? If you want a Batman pack, not a cello
Yeah.
Batman pack or a mid
Mhm.
70s cello, right? Do
Mhm.
you do any research on kind of what the last sale was? Do you have a kind of a gut sense of it? Like, how do you kind of prepare for that when for you, what you want to buy here in
Sure.
2025?
Yeah, some of it is just kind of the over time, kind of keeping track of the market. I don't really
Yeah.
look at eBay sold necessarily unless it's a really obscure item. I kind of go with my gut. Okay, I think this is ballpark market. Let's see if I can do a little better, or
Yeah.
if the seller can do a little better. Just having a general sense of, is a price high? How high is it? That's something I think you have to learn through just buying and selling and
Yeah.
collecting, um, and keeping track of the current market. Keeping track of, okay, well, 5 years ago this guy's price is right.
Mm,
Now this guy is pie in the sky, out of his mind,
yeah.
expensive with this item. So you kind of just, I guess the best thing, you could also look at Robert Edward Auction, their auction results, because they have a lot of items that are okay. The last mantle PSA 3 at Robert Edward Auction sold for this after buyer's premium. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, not that I'm not in the market for a mantle rookie, but
Yeah.
but just to get a sense for, okay, well, with the big auction house, this is what it's going for. So not just people use eBay comps because it's convenient, but there's auction houses too that I think are
Yep.
potentially good resources.
And just me being on some of these Facebook sites for a couple of years now, I mean, I scroll through and I check most everything, especially when it comes down to open packs and those posts on that site. After
Mhm.
2 years, I don't have it all memorized. I never, of course, won't ever have that happening. But you see just trends of things over watching those Facebook posts of ones that like go in like 10 minutes that's sold. And ones that
Mhm.
just sit there for like crickets for like days. And if you do
Mhm.
that enough time, you kind of like train yourself to like know what gut feels right to certain things that you care about that you want to go after, and then things you just like, wow, I thought that was going to go for fast. It's still sitting there. What's going on? That's interesting. Why is that happening? So you kind of
Mhm.
absorb a lot through just watching. And
Yeah.
then when you come to buy, you're hopefully in a better shape to know kind of what feels right. And even if it feels high, if there's only one of them in the world, maybe high is what it needs to be if you want to pull the trigger and buy it.
Yes, yes, and sometimes if it's something you really want, if you I mean, don't pay twice what something is the
Yeah.
market value of, but if it's, $100 over market or $50 over market, if it's the only one and if it's what you want, this is a hobby that it's meant to be enjoyed, it's meant to be fun, pull the
Yeah.
trigger, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Worst case, if you have to move it down the road, if you lose $50,
Yeah.
that's not the end of the world. So yeah, if it comes down to pull the trigger and overpay a tiny bit for something you're really after, I mean, I get it. I totally get it. That's more the collector mindset than the dealer mindset.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a great show. There's nothing like it, and I can't wait. We're less than 100 days, so
I know. Looking forward to it. I've got
yeah,
one more unopened pack question for you if you got time for it, Brandon.
sure, sure,
Thank you. First off, thank you for spending 40 some minutes. We even talked 10 minutes before this on our
sure,
kind of pre-talks. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Different time
absolutely,
zones and schedules and kids, and it all makes sense. So thank you very much.
absolutely.
Um, what's your perspective on kind of unopened wax and kind of where that is right now in terms of there's junk wax, there's 70s, there's ultra, right,
Mhm.
rare stuff. Do you have a general sense of maybe versus maybe last year's, even 2 years ago's national Chicago? Do you
Yeah.
think it's strong, medium, okay? Is it gotten weak in some areas? Is it real hot over here? Like, what's your kind of gut sense for the waters you play in terms of unopened wax right now?
Sure. I'd say we're kind of in a holding pattern from the past few years.
Yeah.
There are anomalies. I do think you've seen star packs that are still going for, people are overpaying, in my opinion, sometimes,
Mhm.
especially with some of the auction houses. People get
Mm,
competitive with each other. And so we're seeing a market where there are times where it looks like it's stronger than it is, because wow, this pack went for $400 last year, and now it's at $800. this is an outlier that was driven by two competitive individuals who are going after the item. It's
Yeah.
not reflective of the actual market. And I've had that happen with, happen a few times with Robert Edward, where I've been bidding and then I'm like, take a moment.
Hmm.
This is getting, it's not a competition, or it shouldn't be a competition, even though
Yeah.
that's the nature of an auction, but people get
Yeah.
competitive with it. And if you have a PSA registry, there are people that'll, they'll blow up comps, for the sake of trying to get an item for the registry, and so I think there's outliers, but overall I'd say we're kind of in a holding pattern, kind of
Yeah.
the similar market to a couple years ago.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yes, at least on the vintage Facebook site that we're on, the Vintage Wax and Packs one, I
yeah.
feel I started probably following that site maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. That's
Hmm.
a lot less is coming up for sale, at least in the waters I play in,
Yeah.
like football, mid 80s, even 70s. It's like it's not coming up as much as it was maybe 2 years ago, or even boxes too. I feel like boxes were, I've not seen a lot of boxes of that era of stuff come up versus like 2 years ago. So many people are kind of holding it because they know they bought high and they don't want to like take a loss in 2025 or wait for it to come back again. But that's
Yeah.
kind of my narrow view of what I kind of most look out for, at least on that Facebook group. But
Sure.
maybe others have different experiences too. So
Yeah, no, yeah, there may be something to that people are holding because they're hoping the market will rebound. I do think
yeah,
that could certainly explain why. And then there are a lot of items I have noticed. Again, I think part of this is just the impulse of us being competitive as collectors. When something's listed as a buy it now, it sits. Even
this
if
is
the
on eBay or Facebook. You're
or,
talking about.
eBay, Facebook. I mean, I think
Okay,
it's
post, yeah,
across
like buy now for this price. Yeah.
sometimes it'll be a very fair price and it'll sit. And the second you list
Hmm.
it as an auction, it gets lots of attention because people they wanna pursue it. It's about,
Yeah.
well, let me I don't have any data to support this, but I think that's kind of the anecdotes that I've seen are kind of lend itself to that people they want to pursue an item. They don't necessarily have to win it, but they like being a participating that way for some
Yeah.
reason.
I
Yeah,
can
because
understand that.
you
Yeah.
could list something real for a really fair price as a buy it now, unless there's a random collector out there who likes that item. Well, it's a fair price, but I'll pass. And
And
as we
even
get closer to the national, people are starting to hoard their money too.
that's an interesting point too. I mean, I think we all are trying to save what we can, and based on our various budgets, right? You find a deal you want, you find that Batman pack, maybe you want to pull the trigger in June, right? If it's not at the national, but if you
Sure.
think it's going to be there, you don't want to pay shipping, and how you think about taxes is up to you. But like all that kind of stuff, right? You can at least take it with you, hold it in your suitcase, not have it be risked, getting damaged by someone shipping it to you from somewhere else, right? So you can kind of take control of it too out there when you buy it, which could be a benefit to some folks too.
Yes, yes, I definitely enjoy having it in hand, and then TSA, hopefully they don't on the flight, don't touch my bag, please. What's in here? Just don't. Just please don't. You're gonna
Yeah.
trigger my obsessive compulsive disorder if you. But yeah, no, there's a lot to be said for evaluating and especially packs in person, and buy from dealers that you trust. It sounds
Yeah.
cliche, but it's the truth. If it's a new dealer and the prices are too good to be true, especially if the packs are raw,
Hmm.
and there's a dealer at the National. Everybody knows him. I'm not going to
Yep.
say the gentleman's name, but he's got a 1953 Bowman black and white baseball raw pack. How incredible! Not a single pack graded. That's
Yeah.
for a reason.
And every year I've seen him too.
I don't think he ever
We all talk
sells anything. Yeah, and all just anyone watching this, if you could go to that, you'll know the booth when you see it. Stay
again.
away.
Yeah.
Stay away. They're
Yeah.
raw for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Odds are the picture will show up on our Facebook group on Friday. Like, look what I found. Is this real? It's like people comment 50 comments about that guy's always there every year.
Yep, yep, exactly. Yeah, yeah. There's someone this year will unknowingly run into him. So yeah, if someone watches this, you'll know it when you see it because it's
Yeah.
the most incredible unopened collection I've ever seen if it was real.
Yeah.
But
So outside of one last thing, outside of baseball
mhm,
card exchange and Kurt at Rip and
sure.
Vintage Packs, any other folks you'd recommend going to right away that like they're really into vintage that are going to be there or have been there in the past?
I mean, those are the two main. I mean, Dave Glazer, he's good. He's got a lot of unopened. David Rose, he's in the Vintage Wax and Packs group for those of you watching that are in that group. He's a
Yeah.
good guy. He's got some nice unopened material. There's a lot of dealers that have a little bit
Mm,
of vintage
yeah,
unopened.
that's true. Yeah.
That's one thing you can find a dealer, they'll have 2 packs, and they're good packs, but then the
Yeah.
rest of the display case is just cards. So you kinda have to there is a hunt beyond, ripping vintage packs, beyond baseball card exchange,
Yep.
finding that random guy that, "Well, he's got a few 77 Topps rack packs. Okay, maybe I can work out a deal here."
He
You
took him in
know,
as a trade for something else and doesn't really quite care or know about that stuff. He knows it's valuable, right? But he's not gonna, like, be a dealer of it. So he may wanna turn it to give something else in the case some room too. So that's where you gotta flick through 1,000 tables. You may find one randomly that has the one that you want, and
mhm.
then, that's kind of the fun story to take home too. You found that pack in the middle of nowhere. Um,
Yes,
that fits your
absolutely.
collection, so
And there's a lot of '86 Fleer basketball. You'll see boxes and boxes and boxes of that. You'll see, dealers that have, they'll have 2 or 3 boxes of, the '87 Fleer basketball, '88 Fleer basketball, stuff like that. So
yeah,
you'll see it scattered around, and there's some product you will see a lot of, even if it's vintage. I don't know what we're not having a debate today about what vintage is,
yeah,
but
no.
if you want '88 Fleer basketball, well, you're gonna hit the mother load because it seems like every year I think Fleer's still printing that. So
Yeah, even though it's 40 years old, like you said, 75 Topps baseball solos, you may find some random, like, I've seen this 10 times. That's really interesting to me.
yeah,
And it's not as quote unquote rare in terms of it may be pricey,
yeah.
but it's not like it's still out there being available. So don't buy the first one you see. So
Yes, yeah, you'll see plenty of 75. There's some years you'll 79 tops,
mm,
I mean, there's still
a lot
cases
of
and
those.
cases and cases. There's cases of 78 tops,
Yeah.
so for stuff that's old, it's amazing how much is still out there for some of these years.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's and like you said, all this stuff, you've got to take it all in. It's gonna be so much right immediately in your sensories, overload right away. So take it all in with a grain of just walk it, take some breaks, eat a pretzel, right?
Yeah,
Talk to somebody, go to the bathroom, have a wingman to like tell you that's a bad deal. That's a good deal. You should take it, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And
that's a good point. You need someone to talk you down too, not just hype you up, but talk you down. That's a fair point. Just being told you might have lost your perspective in the moment here because
yeah.
you get caught up in the moment, and yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's so much fun. It's my favorite thing in the world to do. But yeah, it's a ride. Just have fun, and I look forward to meeting you in person. And
Yeah.
I think it'll be a really really fun experience.
It will be, yeah. No, I'm coming in, hopefully be there Wednesday night, but I'm not quite sure if I'll be at the show or just flying in Wednesday, but then definitely Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Cool.
And then as I hear about things for content creators or other types of meetups that you know about, I definitely love to hear where those are and don't want to miss those. I can meet some more folks in person and shake hands and compare packs and pickups and things like that. That'd be fun.
Sure, sounds great. Yeah, no, I'll definitely keep you posted. And likewise, if you hear anything, please reach out because
Yeah.
sometimes things get by my radar too.
Yeah, no, it's because I know self-service can be an issue there too. At least it was for me a couple of years ago and last year. It's like I'm trying to look up a comp or I'm trying to like call somebody, someone's trying to call me, and it's like it's
Yep.
dropping. I can't find people. So having a plan to know maybe where to meet people if you can ahead of time, or having
Mhm.
a when the meetups are or where people may be at. It's hard. You can't do it all perfectly, but prepare for some of that frustration too with a big show. But it's overall it's way more than that. It's tons of fun. Yeah.
And portable phone charger.
Oh, there you go.
Portable
Good.
phone charger. Bring one every year. They're a little heavy, but it is worth the 20 bucks or whatever at Walmart to get one because
Yeah.
that way you don't have to find an outlet to charge your phone because your battery, especially if you're shooting content, if you're a content creator shooting at the show, it will
Mm,
drain your battery quick.
there you go. That's a good piece to end on right there. We could
Yep,
probably
it
do
is.
another talk around the top 20 things you want to bring and pack and,
Sure, sure.
a few more days out. So
Sounds great.
cool. Well, thank you, Brandon, for jumping on. I appreciate it a ton. Always have fun talking to you and hearing your perspectives. And whether it's just, we usually hear each other's about typing on Facebook groups, right? Not talking in person. So it's good to kind of hear people out loud, what they're thinking about, and look forward to seeing you in Chicago.
Sounds great, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll see you. Talk to you soon.
Take
See ya.
care.
Bye.